supporting the Edgeworths and Edgeworthstown, and just concentrate on Richard Loughlin Edgeworth tonight. So as I said, he married when he was 19, ran off to Gretna Green, and then he inherited this estate. His young brother died, and he inherited the estate, and he was living it up in England at the time. And he wrote again to one of his friends, and he said, "I thought it necessary to return to Edgeworthstown to improve my estate and thus sacrifice my taste to my duty. I had always thought that if it were in the power of any man to serve the country which gave him bread, he ought to sacrifice every inferior consideration and to reside where he could be most useful." So I think that's a very powerful statement, and he lived up to that statement very much so. Again, every year we invite wonderful talent here to Edgeworthstown, like Nuala, and we have our own talent, very much so, in Longford. And it now gives me great pleasure to call on Eleanor Quaine from Carrickboy in Longford. Eleanor is currently teaching in Dublin. She's an interest in music all her life and enjoys writing and performing. And I must say, her uncle Packy cleans me out of money every Thursday night when we play cards together.
There'll be no cards played tonight, but thank you for having us. The first song we're going to do is by a man called Charlie McGettigan, and it's called Feet of a Dancer. Hope you enjoy it. I hope you find feet of a dancer. Hope you can sing in the rain. Hope you find all the right directions for your pain. It won't be easy, but what can I say? There will be trouble along the way, and at every corner, terror and tears. Always remember that we're here, and I hope you find the feet of a dancer. Hope you can sing in the rain. Hope you find all the right directions for your pain, and I hope you find love and affection and someone who cares. Hope you find all the right directions everywhere, everywhere. A shoulder to cry on whenever you're low. You can rely on us, you know. And at every corner comes terror and tear, but just know that we're always here. And I hope you find the feet of a dancer. Hope you can sing in the rain. Hope you find all the right directions for your pain. And I hope you find love and affection and someone who cares. Hope you find all the right directions everywhere, oh everywhere. Even when the rain comes pouring down, you know it's pouring down on you. I hope you find the feet of a dancer. Hope you can sing in the rain. Hope you find all the right directions for your pain. And I hope you find love and affection and someone who cares. Hope you find all the right directions everywhere, oh everywhere.
We will hear more of Eleanor later on. Our next performer, or should I say performer, is Aidan O'Hara. Aidan is a native of County Donegal, and he has deep connections with Longford. He is an award-winning writer, broadcaster and producer. Most of all, I could describe Aidan as an entertainer. So without any further ado, Aidan.
Thank you, Matt. I'd better measure up and entertain you. It's a great pleasure to be here and to see a number of familiar faces. I think of Dr. Spooner and his Spoonerisms, the man that gave his Spoonerisms. He gave it, and how is the queer old dean? Sorry, how is the dear old queen? And things like that, silly nonsense. As for entertainment, I write verses too, but they're nonsense verses and nothing serious, so I don't take myself all that serious, or try not to, and I have a wife to keep me in my place. She would be here, except she has a bad throat, one of those bugs that are going around and they refuse to go away, sadly, and I miss her not being here. We were so used to it. We've been singing together for a very long time. Now, I had planned really to talk about the music, song and dance of the era of Maria Edgeworth. In all her essays, her novels, and in her plays, she constantly refers to music, song and dance. Not only of the big house, but what the people got up to around Edgeworthstown and elsewhere. And so I'll keep it very much a shorter episode, as it were. And I'm going to start with something that I read. Although the line that begins, "Good people all of every sort, give ear unto my song," and some of you here I know recognize that. It's from Oliver Goldsmith's Elegy to a Mad Dog. So he too could be light-hearted, the juxtaposition of elegy and mad dog. And in one of her letters, I think it was, I read many years ago, she did refer to a mad dog. And the version that I have here, I got it actually from a man from Longford in his 70s, late 70s, and he said, my father gave me this version, he said, and the published one of Goldsmith published a huge amount of material, he said, he mentions in this verse, in these verses, a place name in England. Well, it wasn't, my father said, it was in Ireland. It was in Longford. And here is what he told me. I've put an air to it myself, but I'm going to recite it tonight. The air, by the way, is Skibbereen. It matches it very well. Oh, Father, dear, I oftentimes hear you know, the one that begins like that. So I'll recite it. Good people all of every sort, give ear unto my song. And if you find it wondrous short, well, it cannot hold you long. In Edgeworth's town there was a man of whom the world might say that still a godly race he ran whene'er he went to pray. A kind and gentle heart he had to comfort friends and foes. The naked every morn he clad when he put on his clothes. And in that town a dog was found, as many dogs there be, both mongrel, puppy, whelp and hound, and curs of low degree. The dog and man at first were friends, but when a row began, the dog, to gain some private ends, went mad and bit the man. Around from all the neighbouring streets the wondering neighbours ran and swore the dog had lost his wits to bite so good a man. The wound had looked so sore and sad to every Christian eye, they swore that when the dog was mad, they swore the man would die. But soon a wonder came to light that showed the rogues they lied. The man recovered of the bite, the dog it was that died. The next piece has to do again with Longford. But I have a dreadful secret to share with you after I have finished with this. I'm going to sing it unaccompanied, a cappella, the way the people sang it in those days, and up until our own lifetime. They didn't always have balladeers with guitars, and we all picked them up in the 60s, and rock and rollers and ballad singers. This one, Mary Carlton Reynolds, our county librarian, is sitting here in the audience. She said to me one time, Aidan, would you ever sing a song at the launch of John Connell's book, which is coming up in a couple of weeks? And could you sing a song from Longford, please? Now, I have deep Longford roots. In fact, Declan Nerney is related to me through blind Kieran, the great fiddle master from the early 1800s. So I know a lot of the songs, but not off by heart. So I said to Mary, you never refuse Mary anything. She makes things happen here. We all do our best to accommodate her and contribute as best we can. So I went home and talked to Joyce, my wife, and we thought about it, and I came up with this song. And this is what I sang. John Connell and the Granta Books people and the family of John and all of them were delighted. They were very pleased with it. So I'll give it to you now. It's about a letter that went astray, you see. And the mother wrote the letter. Some years ago above in Kilo, where John is from, he's from Kilo. Some years ago above in Kilo, the story all began. Before emigration was finally cured by the first economical plan, a poor young lad had to leave his home and to travel across the sea, but he got well paid in the building trade on the shores of America. Now he did very well, but he sent nothing home, and his mother began to think that he had run away with the blonde and was spending his money on drink. So she wrote him a letter and folded it up, and she sent it upon its way. And upon the cover she clearly wrote to a son in America. Now the postman collected the letter she wrote, and he drove in a van to Cork, where he put it on board of a liner at Cove that landed it in New York. And there with the whiskey and the greyhounds too, the mailbags lay on the quay. And among the rest was a letter addressed where? To a son in America. You can all come in there if you like. It's called audience participation. Now, American postmen, I needn't remark, are rather like me and you. And when they came to this letter at last, sure they didn't know what to do. They consulted all the official lists, but these had nothing to say. There was no directory to help them find a son in America. Well, it lay around the office for years and years, and it gave all the boys a laugh, until it got some use at last in the training of the staff. To every new postman that came on the job, it was shown as Exhibit A, as insufficiently addressed to a son in America. Well, the son got older and wiser too, and at last to himself he said, "Oh, how is it going with the mother at home, and is she alive or dead?" So he walked round the block to the GPO, and he asked with his cap in his hand, "Is there any chance you've a letter for me from my mother in Ireland?" "Indeed we have, sir, and here it is. We've been waiting for you to call. We knew that someone would come someday from Longford or Donegal. From the 200 millions that's living here now in the whole of the US of A. For a mother in Ireland at last we have found a son in America." Well done, that's the story. The dreadful secret is, while John and the family thought I did great work, and Mary too, that I have managed to write that inside a couple of weeks and memorize it as well and sing it like... But no, the truth is, in fact, I buried it. A dear friend of ours who died last year, Alf McLaughlin, former director of the National Library and a great authority on all things to do with the broadside ballads, he wrote it, and he approved of my borrowing it. We all do it. He prints up his songs in that form and sends them to his friends as broadsheet ballads. So anyway, John may find out sometime, but he knows now. Some of you will tell him, John Connell, I mean. Now the other thing, that leads me to a song here, which, again, one of the things I do, I wear a number of hats, and one of the song collecting, both here and in Canada, Newfoundland, and Ireland, and Donegal, not least, not so much in Longford because song collecting is finished. But one of the people I got a song from, or songs from, and we all did, was a woman called Delia Murphy. And I see a few heads nodding. Hers was the most famous woman's voice in Ireland in the late 30s, early 40s. And she was from Mayo, God help us. I said to her when I met her outside of Ottawa in Canada in '68, "Where are you from in Ireland, Dee?" I knew she was from Mayo, but just to get her started. "I'm from Mayo, God help us, where the crows ate the man." And she laughed. That was a dark reference, of course, to things that happened during the famine. She sang The Spinning Wheel, If I Were a Blackbird. She wrote Dan O'Hara, and she also wrote a song called The Moonshiner. I'm a rambler, I'm a gambler. You know the one that goes, whoops. It goes, I'm a rambler, I'm a gambler, I'm a long way from home. If you don't like me, well, leave me alone. Now, that is the song, I Live Till I Die, and I call my biography of Delia, I Live Till I Die, the biography of Delia Murphy. I wrote in the book that, told her where did she get her stuff, and she was a great song collector. But I could never figure out where did she get the Rambler and the Gambler, because it's obviously an American influence. I make you a gallon for a $2 bill. And her father had worked in America, made his money, came back and bought and wrote a big house. So there was that influence, but she also collected. And then a couple of years ago, we had visitors from North Carolina, our sister Dymphna, who may be here, she's going there on her holidays shortly. There she is, off to North Carolina. If you need anyone to carry your bag, Sister Dymphna, I'm willing to help. And the two of the women were, one from Texas, the other one from North Carolina. They were dulcimer players, and one of them actually makes dulcimer. Brilliant piece of work. Her name was Connie, and I said, Connie, do any of you know where Delia might have got that song? She says, I can tell you where I think one of the very early songs in America, collected, this one was actually collected, this version from Texas, where I'm from, and it's called Rambler Gambler. And he said that Alan Lomax and his father were collecting in the late 1920s in Texas, and they came up with this song. This is incredible. So it's got a good chorus, and I understand it's permissible to sing along. Certainly Eleanor Shandler was singing along with the song that her niece Eleanor was singing there. Charlie's song, lovely song that is too. I couldn't help, I had to stop myself from singing it out. It's a beautiful song. And the song goes like this here. I'm a rambler, I'm a gambler, I'm a long way from my home, and if you people, you don't like me, well just leave me alone. You can see where Delia got it, can't you? If you know the Moonshiner. Try it with me, will you please? I'm a rambler, I'm a gambler, I'm a gambler, I'm a long way from my home, and if you people, you don't like me, you don't like me, well just leave me alone. Ah, there's well, the dark night and it's raining, and the moon gives no light, and my pony, he won't travel on this dark road tonight. I'm a rambler, I'm a gambler, I'm a long way from my was the flower of Belgium and the rose of Sicily. And I'm a rambler, I'm a gambler, I'm a long way from my home. And if you people, you don't like me, well, just leave me alone. And now her parents, they didn't like me, and now she's just the same. And if my name's still in your books, gal, well, just blot out my name. And I'm a rambler, yes, I'm a gambler, I'm a long way from my home. And if you people, you don't like me, well, just leave me alone. There's changes in the ocean, and there's changes in the sea, and there's changes in my true love, but there ain't no change in me. Why, last time I'm a rambler, yes, I'm a gambler, I'm a long way from my home. And if you people, you don't like me, well, just leave me alone. That's it. Commissioner A. I'm out.
Well, I think I aptly described Aidan as an entertainer. We had him in the rectory one night for a get-together with Bernard Canavan, who is an immigrant from Edgeworth, and it was a great night's entertainment. And Aidan mentioned about North Carolina. Well, Richard Love of Edgeworth, he associated with people like Erasmus Darwin, Thomas Day, Matthew Bolton, Wedgwood, James Watt, and everything else. And he had a huge interest in education. And his first son, he decided to rear him under the philosophy of Rousseau. And that philosophy was that a child would develop in its own form. You didn't have to direct him or anything. And the young fellow was running around Edgeworth in dirty clothes and no shoes, and they couldn't be distinguished between the son of a gentry or a peasant in Edgeworth but things didn't work out between the father and son, Richard. And so he sent him off to sea, and he ended up in North Carolina, where he built a port, actually, in North Carolina. And like a lot of Edgeworth's adventures and everything else, it was a financial failure. So I'd now like to call on Eleanor again to give us two numbers. Thank you.
I think I'll try to stand back from the mic a bit this time. It's a lot of sound. I called you twice to come back. You said we'd never go off track. But like a hummingbird, it's free, seem to slip away from me. Right out of my grasp. I'd give an inch, but you would only take a mile. I have some faith that faith was only worth my while. You took a risk, you had your chance, but you're the one with empty hands. And as the saying goes, the sunburned licorice, you flew too close. You were the one who dared. Maybe I should have had more hope for you and I. Maybe your time was worth the lows and the highs. But now our voices don't speak. The words of old dried out, and the memories we keep are only for a night. But now our voices don't speak. The words of old dried out, and the memories we keep are only our voices don't speak. The words of old dried out, and the memories we keep are only for a night. That song was a song that we wrote together, and it was called Hummingbird. And the last song we're going to do is a wailing song from Scotland, and we heard a version by an Irish band called Yoga, and we just really enjoyed the story behind it. So thank you for having us again. The diamond is a ship, lads, from